Hi, Tom from bknutrition.com, and in this video I want to talk about why you should never eat foods that you don't like in order to get some sort of transformation in your body. Now, whether it's losing fat, building muscle, losing weight, whatever you're trying to accomplish, there are many diets out there that will promise you this and give you the secrets of what you need to accomplish it. But you have to follow their very exclusive and very pseudoscience based diet, and what they will justify the diet with, which is always restrictive. It always tells you can't eat certain things, or you must eat certain things, and you must eat at a certain time, or you must stop eating at a certain time. All these things are put forward as and supported by a sort of pseudoscience type backing as to why it works and why it's the advantage and why it's the best thing for you to do. Now, I normally see these sorts of diets, although I do see all sorts of diets. I normally see those sorts of diets marketed towards sort of entrepreneurs, business people, because entrepreneurs and business people generally tend to be successful, out of the box thinking type people, and they're also not a stranger to a certain amount of suffering to get what they want. So if you've ever been an entrepreneur or opened your own business, you'll know that it's never plain sailing, and sometimes you just have to weather out the storm a little bit in order to get the final result. And so this sort of mindset plays very nicely into the diet gurus' tricks, where they would say you have to do like keto or Atkins or intermittent fasting or zone dieting or syndrome X dieting, all these things, and all those diets incorporate a very strict set of rules and regulations of what foods you can and can't eat in order to accomplish the goal. Now, if you are looking to build your body, you've got to remember two things. If you're looking to build muscle, you need adequate protein. If you're looking to lose body fat, you need a calorie deficit. Now, those two things you can't get away from, and those are the basics of the diets that I build for my clients. Now, the diets I build for my clients are always based around foods that they like. The reason why is because it's easier to stick to. These diets like keto, Atkins, that sort of thing, where you're going like high fat or low carb or low fat, high carb, or whatever sort of rules and regulations they incorporate, they always restrict you in some way. And unless you are a really big fan of things like low carb, high fat, whatever, you're not going to get on with the diet, and it makes it more stressful for you to actually stick to the diet, because instead of having the foods that you like in proportion, so you're in a calorie deficit to lose weight, for example, you have to go out and now buy special food which you've not really eaten before, not really cooked before, and it's a bit of you're a bit of a stranger to, and that's what your diet's constructed of. Now, in the first couple of, say, weeks when you're doing this diet, your motivation is high, and so you can put up with this little bit of running around and this little bit of stress to, I've got to go and get my steaks or my eggs or whatever, because I can only eat steaks and eggs for breakfast. So you go out and do those things, you prepare it, everything else, but after a while, our life starts to create something called friction. Now, the friction, when I refer to it, is where you've got this immense motivation at the beginning of the diet, where you can actually do things that you can put yourself out to do it. After a few weeks, when it becomes the novelty factor wears off, what happens is that your life starts to impact on you. So the habits and routines that you sort of put off a little bit to incorporate this new diet, they start coming back into it, and that's the friction you're pushing against whenever you're trying to install this new habit, because a new diet is a new habit. And what happens is eventually that erodes down your motivation, your momentum slows, and all of a sudden a life event will happen. Say, if you've got kids, your kids are let home from school, or they're ill, or you've got to go to parents' evening, or something like that. Or say if you work late at work and you haven't got your nice keto food to take with you or whatever. All these things will conspire, and all of a sudden you're left without the food that you would normally eat on this diet that you've got, and then you're left to sort of fend for yourself a little bit. Now, if you can't go out to the shops and get the food that would fit your diet, you're normally only left with things like convenience food, and that's generally not on most diet plans. And what happens is you eat that convenience food, all of a sudden you've broken your diet and you feel guilty, and then you want to go back onto your diet, but then you realize actually that diet is very restrictive and you don't like it. And that's the sort of the watershed moment that happens with a lot of my clients when they come to me. They've done diets for a little bit, life has got in the way, and then that sort of a life event happens, it breaks them, they realize they don't want to do that diet anymore, it's very restrictive and very annoying for them, and at that point they make the assessment that it's actually easier for them to eat the way they did before and sort of abandon their efforts than it is to keep going. And all this creates a negative feedback into your brain that dieting is a tough thing to do. And dieting doesn't have to be a tough thing to do. Eating right for your body does not have to be a tough thing for you to do. There are literally thousands and thousands of different types of food that you can eat to get the results you want, be it losing body fat, losing weight, building muscle. There are an absolute ton of different foods that you can eat, even with severe allergic restrictions and allergy restrictions and food intolerances. I've worked with a multitude of clients who've had some very, very specific things that they can't eat or they can eat, and we've worked around that still to provide them with a very varied diet of foods they like, and they all got results. Now, what I'm trying to tell you here is that if you go into a diet, one of these diets where you've got to restrict yourself and you've got to try and say, oh, I can't eat that, I can't eat that, what's going to happen is, because that diet has to be the diet that changes you, and you've got to stay with that diet consistently for a good couple of months to get the results, the long-term results. If it's not a diet you can stick to, if it's constantly eating foods that you don't like, you're not going to look forward to your meals. You're going to associate your meal times with distress and negativity, and you start to build up this sort of negative reaction or the negative association with food. It's not good for you, and this is sort of as well at the basis of like eating disorders, where I've worked with clients where they had such bad experiences on diets of being told they can't eat carbs and the carbs are going to get fat, and blah, 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 all these other things that people tell you that you shouldn't do, and that in their brain they get this real negative association with certain foods and certain food groups. So this is why my whole message, and it's part of my first principle of a successful body transformation, is that you should never eat foods that you don't like. There are loads and loads of foods out there which you can find which you do like, and most people when they're eating a diet tend to stick around sort of 10 to 15 types of foods, types of meals. I myself, I'm a nutritionist, I have loads of different options open to me, and I like all sorts of foods. I generally tend to stick to about sort of a couple of options for breakfast, couple of meals through the day, and a couple of options for tea and some snacks, because that's the foods I like to eat. It's varied. I get my fiber, my fruit, my veg, my protein, complex carbs and good fats, and I get them from sources that I like. For years as a bodybuilder, people were telling me, oh, you have to eat oats for breakfast because that's the basis of a bodybuilding breakfast. And I never ate oats for breakfast, not really. Every once in a while I preferred other things, and people would say, oh, you have to eat this food for muscle gain, you have to eat this food for fat loss. You don't really. You just need to make sure you're eating correctly for your goals. So if your goal is building muscle, you need lots of lean protein. If your goal is losing body fat, you need a calorie deficit. Whatever food you eat around that will facilitate that. Now, what I would suggest is whatever diet you're doing, make it moderately high in protein, because that will help build muscle but also keep your appetite under control if you're trying to lose body fat. And also look for a good amount of fruits and vegetables and fiber in your diet, because those sorts of things, especially fruit, can be really good low calorie snacks and fill out your day with extra food but not extra calories. Those are sort of a couple of principles I would take in mind. There's obviously loads more, and I've got loads of other videos covering food, but at a very sort of essential part of your diet, don't eat foods that you don't like. Always construct your diet out of foods that you do like, centered around the goal that you want to get to, and you'll find that getting that goal is so much easier, and your relationship with food will be so much better that you won't actually feel like you are on a diet or on this new diet that you're doing. It's not a new diet, it's not this 6-week diet. That's the diet for life. You can eat whatever you want as long as it's within your goals, and you will get the results you want if you do it consistently. And there's the key, is keeping consistency. Once you can do it over and over and over again, and without ease and without stress, that will be when you get the results. So I hope that was helpful. I hope that that helped you a little bit. If you like this video, please like, share and comment, and I will see you on the next video. Thanks.